Hey guys, Cynical here coming at you with another guide video. Today we'll be looking at a comprehensive guide covering all the gear, talent, and spec choices for Antorus, the Burning Throne. Please note that a few gear or talent choices may change when this goes live with any last minute revisions that Blizzard may do. Also, this video will not cover the strategies for each boss encounter, but is a simple guide on what kind of fight each one is, for example single target or AoE, and which spec you'll want to play on it. Now without wasting too much time, let's get started. Starting off, let's take a look at the fire spec. The set bonuses here will result in the largest DPS increase over the other specs, and those are, for the 2-piece, it'll increase combustion duration by 2 seconds, which allows you to squeeze in an extra pyroblast during your burst, and the 4-piece increases all the crit damage you do while combust is active. This will result in large burst damage similar to what we are doing in Emerald Nightmare. Now for which pieces of tier gear will we take? For legendaries, we will be using the Pyro Bracers and Phoenix Flames gloves. The gloves can be substituted for the Time Warp Ring or the belt depending on the current progression of your guild. Personally, the glove synergizes very well with the tier bonuses, it's hard to argue not to use them. Now for the rest of your gear, according to the sims I've done on my own character, you can see that's very close in terms of which off pieces to take, but overall we will be taking the tier 21 helm, shoulders, chest, and legs, which leaves us with using an off piece on our cloak. Moving on to talents, as you can see the basic talents I've selected will be a strong universal single target spec. The talent choices highlighted in yellow represent single target choices. For example, in best case scenario, to maximize your DPS, you'll want to use Rune of Power, but since these fights will be new to everyone, and you haven't had much time to practice the fights, Encanter's Flow will work just fine. Also highlighted in blue are your AoE choices if needed. Living Bomb is recommended for burst AoE, while Flame Patch is better for sustained AoE. One thing to note here, you may have noticed, we will not be taking Fire Starter anymore. Due to how overpowered Combust is with our near tier bonuses, we want to use Combust and cooldown as often as possible so we do not need to delay it using Firestarter. Now finally for stat weights. These are a result from the sims I have done on my own character, but overall it will be mostly the same for everyone else. For single target we will be stacking Haste followed by Mastery followed by Crit, and for AoE you want to stack Mastery first, then Haste, then Crit. The value of Crit has gone up in the patch because we will not be using the belt nor Firestarter, but still not enough to dethrone Haste or Mastery. The second spec we'll be looking at is Frost. As it stands, Frost will be our default spec to use on pure single target and 2-target cleave. Our tier bonus complement this as well by increasing our flurry damage with our 2-piece, and our 4-piece increase our next Ice Lance damage by 25% after using a Brain Freeze proc. Or in better terms, your shit hits a lot harder during shatter combos. As for gear choices for Frost, you can see the sims are very close as to which 4 pieces of tier 21 and which pieces of tier 20 we will be using. Yes, that's right, we're going to be using 2 pieces of tier 20. I hope you like farming Olrieds for gear upgrades. Anyways, ideally we will be using the helm and the cloak for tier 20 choices. The sims here show helm and gloves as the better choice, but this comes down to how much crit you have. If you are low, the helm and gloves will work fine, but in a fully Antorus geared character, you want to take the helm and the cloak. And lastly, for legendaries, this isn't going to change. We'll still be using Magtheridon's Bracers and Shard of the Exodar. Moving on to talent choices, nothing here is going to change. We'll still have our single target spec and our AoE spec. Looking at this list, your single target choices are in yellow, while AoE are in blue. Pretty simple cookie cutter spec choices. Next slide, please. As for our stat weights, again, this is not going to change at all. We'll be wanting at least 31% crit, and then after that, stacking as much haste and versatility as possible. It is always important to sim your own character to find out if haste or verse is better. These two will alternate every single piece of gear you get. If you do not know how to sim your own character, I've taken the time to write a lovely guide on how to do all of that, and you can find that as another video on my channel. Saving the best for last, obviously, is Arcane. Recently, Blizzard made a change that pretty much fucked up the balancing on the tier 20 and bonuses for Arcane, leaving it as a middle of the pack choice in terms of AoE and single target. The 2-piece will increase our damage for a short duration for each arcane charge consumed, and our 4-piece has a chance to grant us a mini bloodlust effect while generating charges. Basically, this will help normalize our conserve phase damage while giving us a small boost when it is time to burst. Thank God it doesn't alter our rotation anymore. Fuck you, tier 24-piece. Looking at the sims for which tier gear to take, it is all very close, but ultimately we will not want to use the shoulders and the legs. They're better off-tier shoulders options, and for legs we will only use the kilt. As for the rest of the legendaries, I highly recommend the kilt since we will be consuming charges a lot more often, and for the other slot, the Solely Archmage is a very good choice, and so is the Time Warp Ring. Most high-end arcane players will be swapping between the 3 all the time. Now moving on to talent choices. Most everything is the same except we will not have the tier 22 piece anymore, and it sims a bit higher to use Charge Up once again for single target fights, and use Resonance as an AoE choice. Overpower will still be used for single target, and Arcane Orb will be taken for AoE obviously. Finally, looking at the stat priority. Arcane stats change a lot with each piece of gear, so always sim yourself. Basically, we'll be stacking crit and verse still, but haste will be important as well for generating charges. So as a TLDR, take the higher item level piece, granted it has a combination of these 3 stats on it. Now I know what you're thinking, hey Cynical, what trinkets do I want? Fear not, adventurer, for I've taken the time to get that answer for you. Here are 3 different charts showing the individual strength for each trinket for each spec. You may pause the video to see how close some are, but basically you want Aman'Thul's Vision and the Acrid Catalyst Injector. The only thing I can note here is if you have a high item level Owl trinket from Tomb, you're going to want to keep that and sim it against any other trinket that you get if you're spec'd Arcane, because that trinket is beastly as fuck with that spec. Finally getting to the juicy part, what spec do I want to play in each fight? This is a quick rundown on what kind of fights to expect and what spec will perform better on them. Remember, this is just a brief overview, we're not going to be going over any of the boss abilities, as you can find those on other videos online. Boss number 1, Garrothi Worldbreaker. It's going to be a single target fight with slight movement, so therefore you're probably going to want to play Frost. Next up are the Fellhounds of Sargeras. This is a 2-boss encounter, but they'll be spread the whole time. Expect a bit of movement, but because it is single target, you're going to want to mainly play Frost. Fire can do well on this due to the movement required, but it's recommended for Frost. Next on our list is the Antorus High Command. This is a single target fight, but adds will spawn in ways, making Fire the clear choice winner here. Portal Keeper Hazabel is a single target boss fight, with ads spawning constantly as well. Because of this AoE, Fire is going to be the top dog. Moving on to, in my opinion, the dumbest fight ever is the Tower Defense minigame, ENR the Lifebinder. Waves of ads cause Fire to be dominant here, but you can play Arcane for that sick AoE burst. Iminar the Soul Hunter is a single target fight where you nuke him, then you run to the other side of the platform, nuke him, and then you run back and you nuke him again. Because of this single target, you're going to play Frost. Kingaroth is an interesting fight which deals with good mechanics and good DPS burn phases. It's mostly going to be a single target fight with some chance at cleave and high priority burst damage. It's going to push Frost ahead. Varimathras is going to be a simple patchwork style fight of Antorus. So guess what? That's right, you're playing Frost, bitches. Arcane can do well with the more gear you get, but for progression's sakes, Frost will be the clear cut winner. Next we have the Covenant of Shavara. Depending on your guild strategy, you may be able to benefit from the cleave during the encounter, which I recommend playing Fire, but because there's a lot of movement speed and you have a chance to cleave. Frost can do well if you do not have the opportunity to cleave at all though. The second to last boss is Agrimar the Titan. This is a single target fight with priority burst damage, and because of the single target and burst, you're going to want to be playing Frost. Finally, we have Argus the Unmaker. This is a multi-phase fight which swaps between single target, cleave, and AoE. Because of this complex style of encounter, Frost or Fire will be able to do fine on the final encounter for Antorus, the Burning Throne. Please note that these may subject to change, as with Blizzard they are unpredictable changes and sometimes can alter and swing one spec higher than others. This is a basic rundown though of what you should be playing on each fight. But remember, at the end of the day, play whichever you find the most fun. If your A team suggests you play another spec, don't be hesitant to change. I find the Mage class in general the most fun I have ever played in my 11 years of World of Warcraft. That's it for this video, guys. I want to thank you all for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for some more GG content. And you can find me live streaming at twitch.tv/cynical. Until next time, guys. Peace.